Dear Cosmo babies, on this week's episode, we are talking with a very well-known hairdresser, especially in the competition world, George Alderete. He is the creative color ambassador for Kuhn, as well as he sits on the NAHA and Beacon committees within PBA, and is also a mentor for Beauty Changes Life. Welcome, George.
Yeah.
Thank you, Russell. How you guys doing?
It's nice to have such a heavy hitter here on the podcast today.
Oh, God.
Absolutely.
Just been doing it a long time.
That counts. That counts.
Yeah. What's happening? What's cooking, guys? You want to talk about competitions?
I want to talk about competitions. It's something that we haven't talked about as of yet on the podcast. And it's something for me that it was such a heavy a part of the beginning of my career, especially in school. And I think it's so important to really dive deep into the world of competitions and why they're so important to start while you're still in school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but before we go into this, I want to kind of relay back. When I went to beauty school, competitions were really, really big. Every trade show had a competition. I mean, there were competitions all over the place for a myriad of different categories. I mean, there was total look, then there was the hair cutting, then there was the hair styling, and then there was nails and everything you could think of, body fantasy painting and all this. And I had actually competed quite a bit and, succeeded well. And I really, truly miss those days of going to the trade show and seeing the competitions like we used to. It's kind of morphed, I guess, into more of a photography kind of competition for the total looks type of thing, which is a different kind of medium, but still requires the same sort of skills. But I miss those competitions a lot.
I do too. And I'll tell you why they were so important to me, because as somebody that was starting off really fresh and seeing the noise happening at the show.
Mm-hmm,
a lot of noise going on, especially at that time when it was the Long Beach Hair Show in Los Angeles, in Long Beach. And so there's so much going on. You got Sassoon over here. You got all the big hitters. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, this little place in the corner that had all these people gathered around that were so into that, I was like, what's going on over there?
The cheering and the screaming, you could hear it through the entire auditorium.
Yeah. Exactly. The girls, the pose and the rhinestones, the bling and everything. And it was just over the top. But it really interested me and it intrigued me. And I thought, what category could I do that allow me to kind of experience that? And so when I was in beauty school, I was fortunate enough to have a really cool mentor teacher. His name is Chuck Fisher. I'll never forget him because that gentleman was just an old school cowboy. And he used to tell me, he came up to me and he says, "Kid, I want you to come over here." And he's the one that really groomed me for competition. Nice. So I got into hair cutting and the bug bit, and that was it. But it was really funny because, you're into your scores, you're into all this stuff. You want to know why. Mm-hmm. Why did I place here? What did I do here? And the gentleman that read the scores to me was Andre. And Andre was a gentleman that was a part of the Cosmetology Association, and he came up and created American Board Certified Hairdressers.
Cool.
So that gentleman was a judge back then, and he was the one that kind of said, "Hey, if you try this, there's your scores, you do this." So I did, and the first one was, I got top 5, and then third, and then second, and then nada. And the nada was the lesson. And not getting anything on the way home. And it was the one where my mother and father went for the first time to a hair show to watch me.
Oh, wow.
And my mom did the makeup, got the girl dressed in the bathroom at the convention center. And I had already won. So I did Pasadena hair show. I did all the local hair shows and had placed. And this one, I knew that I got it. I had it in the bag. So I didn't practice as much. I knew the haircut, had a great model. But when I didn't get anything.
Oh, ouch.
Not even top 10. That was an ouch. And I was in the car. And I held back from crying. My dad was there, my mom. And my mom looked in the rearview mirror and she says, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I didn't win. I didn't place. I didn't do anything." She goes, "What are you worried about? You can't have everything all at once, because if you do, what do you have to look forward to?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest aha.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're right. Be patient. You can't always win. Yeah. What is it that makes you a winner? Practice. Honing in on your craft. Not worried about if you could do it or not. Just do it.
Yeah.
And do it and practice it until you get better and better and better at it.
Mm-hmm.
And on your craft. And so that's what I did. And then eventually it started to move into photography. And when you get into photography, what's really interesting is that world is different.
Completely.
Oh, yeah.
The hair's different. It looks different. Mm-hmm. When you see it in person, you're like, oh, that looks great. And then you take a picture of it and you're like, that looks terrible. What happened?
It's awful.
It diminishes everything that you see in person. It diminishes it when it becomes a photograph. Mm-hmm. And you have to, the color, the shape, the size, the texture, everything gets diminished.
It really does. So, I went to my very first NAHA and I sat at the table and it was like, what is a NAHA? And this was what is so interesting about that entire weekend. I'll never forget it because I was walking down the aisle. I was with Philip Wilson and Robert Cromings from Paul Mitchell. I don't know how I ended up in that grouping category walking down the hall, but I did. I was assisting Philip, and out popped this lady with big, giant, curly red hair, and her name was Mary. And she was pitching and pushing a new way of digital world, which is going to be behind the chair. And so that was our first introduction to that. So that weekend was a lot of stuff going on. Mm-hmm. But we get to the dinner. It was a sit-down dinner. And at that table was Sonia and Christopher Dove, Brian and Sandra Smith, one from Redka, one from Wella, Redkin and Wella at my table, and me and Philip. And they had won in their categories.
That's an amazing table of people to be sitting at.
And that was I was like, that was it. I want to do this. I want to learn how to do it. And I couldn't be around better people. Mm-hmm. So my advice is to any of you out there that are just starting in competition is to just show up.
Yeah.
Show up, be there, lend a hand, because when you lend a hand, you are going to learn.
Definitely.
But thinking of lending, you're learning. Mm-hmm. Just think of that.
Yeah.
So that's really important. And the other thing is, don't be afraid to say, I don't know how to do that. Will you show me?
Yep.
The artist or whoever is the lead will appreciate you more for being honest than trying to do it and bundling it all up. Mm-hmm. I love to teach. So I would be more like, well, let me show you. Let me take you aside. Let's do this. Practice if you not take the mannequin home tonight and then tomorrow on set, you're going to do it. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Things like that. You have to seize that moment. Mm-hmm. So I would say go for it. Just show up and anything. But here's what hairdressing competition will do. It's going to show you when you hire or get a makeup artist, or maybe you get a clothing stylist or a photographer. That whole world changes from hairdresser to editorial makeup, editorial photography, magazine work. It shows you a whole other vein of existence in our industry that you may not have known.
Definitely.
So it didn't show you fashion in beauty school. You just needed to know you had to get your test done.
Exactly.
How many perms do I have to roll?
Yeah.
And I could always hear my teacher tell me, Chuck Fisher, George Alderete, I could park a truck in between them perm rods. Do it again. Every single time.
When I went back to school, I was really determined to make it work because I was an older student going back into cosmetology because I started with aesthetics when I was 19, 20, and was 26 when I went back for my cosmetology license. And I told myself when I signed up, I said, I'm going to enter every single competition that is available to me in school just to push my boundaries, just to figure it out, just to make sure that I don't miss a single opportunity. And I think competitions can be as small as the competitions your school puts on, or like we had the ones that I was involved with. They were national competitions that our school helped us with to get into wedding hair and updo editorials and other type of photographic online competitions that were available during that time. And I entered every single one of them. I did the hair, I figured it out. I went through the process. I got with my mentors and put it together. And it taught me so much because I knew that I never wanted to do bridal hair. That was not what I wanted to do. But I didn't know
the first one to run when I saw that long hair past the bra strap. I was like, yes, I gotta go. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, I didn't know until I did it. And I think starting with those small competitions that are even locally or just ones that your school puts on that are available to you, even if it's just you and your other classmates and the teachers are the ones
or a local charity where they have a little venue and they want the businesses, the businesses to do a hair show or something. We did that too. And, you'd get different salons to come in and you see what other people are doing. And it gives you the experience of putting together a show.
Absolutely.
And putting together that kind of hair and just the logistics of it. Like, how's it going? What's the musical? There's so many missing pieces that you can learn about.
Exactly.
So it's interesting.
And then you can open yourself up to bigger things, because if you're like, oh no, I really like doing editorial or avant-garde or something like that, you can look into the bigger competitions like NAHA, which George, again, sits on the committee with PBA for NAHA. I have gotten to judge NAHA for the past 8 years, which is absolutely one of my hands down favorite things that I get to do, because that's the kind of hair I love. That's the kind of photography work that I love, that I get to look at and kind of pick apart and see, what they did and the techniques that they put together. And I think for me, I was introduced so early on in my career to the world of NAHA and editorial and these bigger world-renowned competitions like Alternative Hair Show in London. And I think this may be the wrong name, but I think it's called the IPCCs, which is also a global competition, which that one is also really huge for editorial, wedding looks, things like that, color. There are so many huge competitions out there that people can be a part of. And and thankfully I was introduced and I got to know, I went to my first NAHA still as a student, and that was really exciting to be a part of and in rooms with people.
It does. And I think that, if somebody's really looking where to start, and you only have your camera and a ring light and a really good, beautiful head of hair that you just finished and you love and you want to showcase it, then enter a competition where they just allow a phone photo.
Yep.
And that gets you started. And then, grow up from there, take baby steps up.
Exactly.
Jump in head first. I did all the stuff in the beginning with staff and so on. We had a makeup artist and our own, in-house. So, and we would get house models, the girls that we would have for education. And if they were pretty and we wanted to shoot them and get a good look out of it, or they had gorgeous hair, that's how we would practice.
Absolutely.
And once you get the bug, it's hard to get rid of.
It's so true. One of my favorite things is on the show Schitt's Creek, when Alexis and Moira are sitting down and Alexis was like, "What's your favorite season?" And Moira's like, "Show season." That's me.
That's you. Exactly.
I love show season. I love professional beauty show season.
Exactly. And it's really good to be a part of a really good show in Chicago at ABS, celebrating their 100 years.
Yeah.
Because it was, I think, the very first one that you felt like there was something, we want to get out now.
Yeah.
We want to be around others, and it was full of really energetic people. So it's telling me it's giving me a good view of where we're going. There's a big shift right now, and you can feel it and you can see it. Well, it's been happening. But I want to get back to the competition thing, because if there is somebody that's younger, what I am noticing in the newcomers and in the student categories, the work is phenomenal.
It is. These newcomer and student categories it is next level work.
They're fearless.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to put themselves out. And I will say it's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And
the ideas are new, which is what I love. Just as an example, this past NAHA, I got to judge the student category, which is by far my favorite. It's always my favorite. And whenever I see the little student category come up on my judging panel, I'm like, yes. And
it's so true.
It is always the most creative work out of anything I get to look at. And it's because they come with the biggest and boldest and freshest ideas, because they, like you said, they're fearless. And the idea, they haven't been put into any kind of a box yet to shrink them down or to niche down or anything, which is not a bad thing, but
it's really good. I know a mentor of mine said, I wasn't a vivid colorist or a rainbow triber or any of those sorts. I was a commercial, editorial, beauty. That was my brand, until Vivid started to really play an important part. And I understood that direct dyes are really difficult to work with, and removing them, and it's all about the science, really, when you look at it. And so that part intrigued me, which got me into the creative part of working with Vivids and then competition, because then I stepped into a whole new arena. Is this NAHA worthy? Well, yeah, look at it.
Yeah.
Or is it beautiful? Yeah, it is NAHA worthy, but it's not going to fit in a category that's going to beat or win anybody, because maybe they're 10 times heavier or bigger.
Mhm.
You know, because
Definitely.
they've got their formula down.
I think that that's something that they really need to look at as a student or someone that's looking to enter a competition that's fresh and new to it is it's great to win and it's great to go get the exposure and it's great to be a part of it and the glamour part of it. It's fantastic. But the reality of it is what is the most valuable part of it is you exercising your own creativity, you're pushing your own boundaries, and you are practicing repetitive skills. And each time you practice styling the hair, it gets better and better and better. It strengthens your hands. It strengthens your eye. It strengthens the clarity of your idea. And those are the things that are invaluable and make you a dangerous hairdresser because success is right there in those little practices that you do every time. Because the next time Nurse Ratchet comes in, you can whip it out much quicker because you've practiced and your hands are stronger and your eyes are stronger and everything gets better and faster with you practicing and competing.
You know, it's really true. And practice does make perfect, but honing in on your craft and your skills and important.
The dexterity, the articulation.
I am attending a boot camp with Sharon Blaine in July in New York for 4 days. I spoke to a person that had already attended and she said, get your hands ready.
It's intense.
Yeah.
I haven't been, but her work is intense.
You're going to do pin curls and setting and things that you're probably not used to doing a lot of, unless you're doing editorial work or wig work or stuff like that. So I'm excited about it. But I guess I would say to you, you never stop learning. I felt like I need to know more about that kind of work because I want my work to improve in my photographic work.
And sometimes, when you're always learning, you're relearning stuff that you've learned that you forgot. Annie and I just went to Japan and we went to a Japanese beauty school and they're showing pin curls and how to roll a perm. And so the girl I'm getting is we're doing pin curls. And I'm like, wow, I haven't done a pin curl in a long time, in 10, 15 years. And I was great at it. I could do a pin curl, a sculpture curl. It's like, oh, baby, that's beautiful.
Right.
And I was fumbling through this pin curl and it was just a flat wrap pin curl. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how embarrassing is this? I can't even pin curl.
It is crazy. But all of those foundational skills, you might think in beauty school, like, why am I rolling this perm? I'll never do a perm wrong. Or what? Because you may set a head of hair with perm rods for a photo.
Well, it's also just teaching you the dexterity and the finger skills that you need in order to be able to just comb a section clean.
Absolutely.
It's not the truth.
Yeah. I feel like this is really good because a lot of people in school, at least from what I'm hearing with the kids that I get to interact with personally, is, well, I'm not really interested in that. I'm not really interested in competitions or doing those kind of things or like getting into editorial. But there's so much that you can learn about yourself and your skill set and what you do want to do behind the chair doing these competitions early in your career. Because there's,
very true.
It's like, it doesn't mean that you have to go and that's your whole vision and line in your career down the road. And you may not want to do that, but there's so much that you could just learn on a personal level.
The number one lesson to learn out of doing anything of that is communication. When you go in to do a shoot and you're working with all these different people, when you go and you have a chair, you have to cold call. You have to learn how to break the ice, how to start your conversation or your consultation, or whatever it might be that you're doing with this person that you've never met. And by doing the competitions and by doing those other things, getting used to doing that with strangers makes it's the biggest lesson you can learn that takes you back to your chair.
Yeah, it's putting you in an uncomfortable situation. The more comfortable that you are in an uncomfortable situation, the faster you're going to grow. And there's no replacing that. There's absolutely no replacing that.
Early on in my career, like when I was in school still, and I entered anything that was brought my way, I was like, I'm going to do it, whether I was interested or not, because I really wanted to push those boundaries for myself and just say yes all the time. And I think what that led me to was saying yes to going to the hair shows, saying yes to going to like ISSC in Long Beach when that was still a show that was available. And what that did was it started to open different doors for me that weren't even a part of the competition world, but it was just a part of the bigger industry aspect of everything. plus the networking opportunities that it gives you. So even if you are trying to get into a big competition, maybe your school supports you and lets you do a NAHA entry, and they're going to help and get the photographer and put you through all the steps. The networking opportunities that open up during those things, even if you don't make it or you don't get a nomination, but you go to the show and you go to the award ceremony, the people that you're able to meet and the situations that you're able to put yourself in are going to benefit you on such a larger scale just by saying yes, which is something Russell and I talk about quite often on this podcast, is showing up and being there and saying yes to the things that are in front of you.
Saying yes is not only saying yes to the opportunity, it's saying yes to me being scared shitless going into the situation that I'm uncomfortable with. I don't know that I want to do that. So it's like when you're a child and mom says, "Here, would you like to try some asparagus?" You're like, "Hell no, I don't want to try any asparagus. That looks terrible." But then as you get older, you think, "Yeah, maybe I'll try it." And then you try it, you're like, "Oh, that's okay." Especially when I dip it into some Cheese Whiz, it's delicious.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not that redneck, but you get the idea.
Velveeta, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mexican Velveeta and asparagus is delicious.
Oh, my God. Anytime. Oh. No, it is. It is about dipping your toe into something and figuring out what you want to do. And that's a part of career building, finding out what is it?
Yep.
And getting every example, good or bad. I don't want to be that. I want to be like that. You pick and choose. Exactly. You model yourself. You create yourself. And that's what's the beauty of our community, is that it's forever changing. And you'll have one style one day and your hair one way. And then the next time you might be just in a whole other look.
How do you know you don't like it until you've tried it? And not just like dabble. I mean, actually applied yourself and actually diligently tried it. Then you can make a decision. Yeah, I don't want to do relaxers. Burns my fingers. So I get it, but you got to at least figure out how to do it well before you can make a decision on, no, that's not for me.
Correct. Yeah. And know what it's about, because you're going to be working on that type of hair.
That's right.
Eventually.
And competitions are a lot like that. Is how do I know I'm going to compete? How do I know I'm going to enjoy it until I actually truly throw myself into it and apply myself with everything I've got? And then it comes out and you think, well, you know what? That was terrible, but the process wasn't so bad. I know I can do better. And then that's how the bug catches. And next thing you know, you become Annie and you look for every competition you can get in.
Every single one.
Yep.
Yeah, I would always joke, like, I'll go to the opening of an envelope. I don't care. I'm just going. I'm going to show up. What was I going to say? Oh, the woman or the girl that won NAHA Moment. And I don't know if you recall it, but the hair was it was competition hair. She had a background somewhere. She's from either Russia or Ukraine, somewhere in that area where they do all of that competition type of hair and stuff.
Yes.
And I have a friend, Jose Miguel, who's there now for a month and a half with a girl, and they are studying under that. And that's heavy.
That is heavy.
In another country. Yeah. For a month practicing just to get into that world of
that world championship type of hairdressing.
Championship level is way. But this guy from Orange County, California, who's just a friend, he's been a friend forever, said, I really think I want to do it. And he put his mind to it and started to do, and to see his work now, it's fantastic. But back to that girl, I don't think she would have gotten Moment if she didn't have the competition background that she had. She styled it and it was relaxed, but you could tell that in that was some crafting and some hairdressing training.
George, where are some places that people, so like if somebody is in school right now and maybe their school doesn't offer information on any level for competitions, where are some really easy places that Cosmo babies can go and find information on positions? I
think they can find information at PBA, definitely, for the Beacon program. You could find information there. I know that they are working on a mentorship program to get people more interested in NAHA quicker, at early stages of the career. So that's going to be worked on. I would then go on Insta, honestly, and go to the Explore. Just explore. And I picked like makeup artists. I see hair, like beautiful hair, or hats with colors and stuff. That's my color palette for my shoot in July. I picked the color palette. I have that down. So you got to search and look for things that make you interested. It doesn't necessarily have to be hair. Anything that intrigues you, like, why do those things go together and how did they do that? How can I do that on hair or color or in a formulation? Or it just starts triggering the inner part of your creativity, I think, for me.
Mhm.
So I would suggest exploring and follow those that you like. Follow and creep up on them. Don't be hesitant to go through their stuff, because in their stuff, you're going to find other people that do the same that you like. They're just in their stuff. You got to find them. And and that's how I do it. I'll see somebody on the red carpet, but I like her stylist, and I'll follow her stylist, and then I'll go to the stylist, and then she works with this hairdresser and makeup artist, and she did this shoot. And that's how I travel down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I start building my boards. Yeah.
Something that I did, it was right after I graduated school, but I talked with everybody. I at least tried in school. I made friends with the older students that had been there before me, because they were already out in the world doing some stuff. And the ones that were doing things that I wanted to do, which aligned with editorial, and they were doing photo shoots with local photographers, I started just being best friends with them and trying to be like, hey, let me know if they ever need another stylist, or if you need an assistant on a shoot, or if I can just go and watch to be there to like see how all of this works.
It can happen.
Yeah, because that opened me up to meeting the photographers that are local, meeting the models that are local. And a lot of times the models that are doing stuff they are so open to being like, hey, you want to play with my hair and take pictures of me just on yourself? Like, let's do it.
Yeah,
because
let's do it.
They want that stuff too. And it opens you up to so much more just locally on that level.
You always want to get the model that you know is going to sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like I can study girls. Like I go to little 5 Points here in Atlanta, and I'll just go to the clothing stores or whatever, and vintage stores, and just sit there and pretend shop. And I watch girls, and I'm like, that style, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to post. I need that turquoise and lime green hair, for that post. And I'll take in, and I like her piercings and her ink and her hair under her arms, because that's what I'm going to shoot. That's the look I want to go for. You know what I mean?
Right.
Absolutely.
And then there was a whole other learning process, about her.
Oh yeah.
Learn.
Yeah.
Keeps you young, George. Keeps you
does
young.
keep me young. It does. And I just had a big birthday, so I have to stay young.
When I was competing, and they were live competitions, and I always did the avant-garde competitions. And my one model that I had that was my primary model, she was the muse, right? She was not what you would consider classically pretty, but she was statuesque, and she had that Greco-Roman kind of intensity to her. So when I put this super soft finger wave pin curl set on her, it just struck like this Greek goddess. And it was stunning to look at, because she could sell it. I would not have done nearly as well had I not had her as my model.
You don't want that over the top beautiful model.
No.
Sometimes photography doesn't work. You want the androgyny, you want the boy look. If you want beautiful plain Jane face, but you put makeup on her and she's stunning. Something in the character of her eye, maybe the way she has her brow. So I study them and look at them and see how their movements are. And sometimes they just turn, and I'm like, that's it. That's what I want to shoot. And that's who I know I want to approach.
When the first time I went to New York Fashion Week, and I got in with a buddy of mine who was doing hair for Calvin Klein. So I'm backstage with him as his assistant, right? And it's every model that you could think of. Every supermodel comes through there. And I'm thinking, that's Christy Turlington. And when you see them in person, they don't look like they photograph. It's like, who
is this wafy, skinny little girl?
Yeah,
that doesn't look like much.
Yeah.
You're in front of light.
They look so different. And then when you see a picture of them, it's like, what a difference. Because sometimes learning to see what takes a good photograph is different than what is classically pretty.
Yep.
Because I've seen beautiful girls in person, and I take a picture of them, and I'm thinking, that did not work.
I've been in rooms where I've had arguments, kind of sidebars with them, and they're like, no, I just don't. I'm like, you just need to trust me on this. I can tell you right now.
Yeah.
And they like, no, I want this girl. I'm all, she's beautiful, she's stunning, but that's all she's got.
Yeah.
She's not, she's pretty there, but she's 1 degree.
Yeah.
This other girl is way deeper. And when they trust me, we got the cover.
Yeah.
When you got layers of emotion, it makes a more interesting photograph.
And when they can do that smize thing and do
yes.
and you're like, yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
When I'm taking pictures now, I have a little powwow before I shoot, because I'm shooting with amateurs. They don't know. So I'm going up to them and saying, okay, this is what I want you to do with your eyes. I want you to raise the lower eyelids up without crinkling your eyebrows. They're like, how do I do it? I said, watch me, and I'll show them. And then I want you intense eyes, but I want a slight little Mona Lisa smile. They're like, oh my God, how am I going to do that? Just practice for a minute, and then they'll get it. And it's like, there we go. Perfect.
Okay. Show us, Russell.
Okay. You instead of doing this, you just raise the lower eyelids like that. You just, okay.
For anyone who's like listening to this podcast, I'm going to say, go look at our YouTube. Watch this video.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm going to put up a cat face instead of my real face.
Something that I love too, that is making a resurgence right now, is the Polaroid camera. Because at the salon that I work at, we work with local models all the time. And when I say local models, we work with girls off the street or men, women, non-binary. Like, we work with everybody that is just interested in being photographed by us. And what we do is we have them come into the salon. I take pictures with the Polaroid camera because we can instantly see it and how they transfer, because like we were saying, they do not always look the same on camera as they do in person. And there are a lot of times that I'll watch that Polaroid develop and I'm like, this could literally be an ad. Them just standing there looking into the camera. And it's like, oh my God, this is definitely the person.
Good.
And it makes such a huge difference, because even with your digital camera, sometimes they still look different. And I love the Polaroid picture because you cannot hide. You cannot filter. That's what you're getting.
Yeah, and I've hired mistakenly models that I loved on their Insta, but I didn't really look or consider the fact that she tweaked everything. And so when she showed up, we can't hide that. You can't filter it. I can't. And you're not going to wear the long wig now. I got to get it. Going to go out.
Yeah.
So it changes every dynamic. Yeah. And I don't want to send her away because she's beautiful.
The right model. So when someone's going to start competing, they've decided that, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. What's some first steps that I can do, George?
Some of the first steps I would on a model. Where are you going to pick them? Where are you going to go? Where's your resource? Okay, so maybe I would start looking where there's servers, models. Go to those places, because those types of girls are usually a little more outgoing. So
find the right model first. So you'd find a model before the idea, or the idea before? Okay.
Because I may have an idea, but I can't have it until I fully know what kind of hair, because hair is going to play into it. It's not going to be hair. Will she let you cut it? Will they let you color it? If they can't, do I need to use a wig?
Right.
And that's a whole other game. So, but really start on something where it's more natural. Just want to do textured hair, color. You just want to see how it plays in the light. Just want to see and figure out your game.
Now, if I don't know, I mean, a makeup artist, if I'm in school, should be easy to find. Someone's good at makeup, I can find that. But for finding a photographer, should I just use my phone, buy a camera, take a YouTube? You can
use your phone.
Okay.
There's a lot of that. But I would go to your local, we have SCAT. So you have up and coming photographers. They put it on the bulletin board. They want to test, want to shoot anything. I see them testing all the time here in Buckhead. They're always, and I'll get their card. Like, hey kid, what's your name? And he's like, oh, I'm starting out, and I'll do testing.
Instagram would be a good place too for local starting out photographers.
I've also found people on there, and then they would meet. They happened to be in Atlanta, and we'd meet up and did a shoot together. So you're going to start to find the people that are very similar to what you like in this. They just attract. I don't know what it is, but we just do.
Yep.
And and it really does clean up things for you. People just pop up. I need to say it.
When the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yeah, it's absolutely a universal thing. It just it's organic. I hate to say that, but it is.
Yeah.
So just take steps. It doesn't matter what they are. Just take some steps.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would also say
if you see it, you might realize, oh my God, I need to practice styling hair.
The community colleges are really great also for photographers. They're also students looking to partner with people to do work on. But Instagram. I would say hang out at your local college or community college and check Instagram for up and coming.
Yeah,
definitely.
I would definitely do that. But you're going to learn a lot. from that model that you're.
Oh yeah,
We always do.
Right,
models are
going to
key.
learn like, okay, I don't know how to pick a model.
Yeah.
I thought she looked good, but she didn't photograph well.
My mentor, John Delaria, back in New York, when I would do a photo shoot at night, at the end of the day, or at night, midnight, we're in there shooting, and this is when you had film, so you had to go send it off to develop it and bring it back and get the test sheet, and I'd say, "Hey John, what do you think of these?" And he'd look at them and go, "You need a better model." Like, what? No, look at the hair. He's like, "No, you need a better model." He goes, the model's not working with this hair. He goes, you got to have the right model. And I was just grunting like, whatever.
Yeah, of course.
But he's right. He's absolutely right. 100%.
You want to get her done. You want to get started and go.
What I was always
absolutely right.
You got to do your due diligence.
What I was always told when I was starting out, again, when I was a student, brand new professional, and because I really wanted to get into editorial. That was where my heart's desire was in the beginning. And a piece of advice that I still hold in the back of my head every single time that I set up for a photo shoot is face, body, hair. Hair is always the last thing that's going to be important in that picture.
You can make the hair if they don't have it.
Then the body, then the hair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can put it on set and it's missing something. Well, let's put it in.
You can make the hair.
And those are the things that you're going to learn on set.
And you'll learn little tricks that like the big guys do. Like one thing I learned from Orbe is he'd put a wig on somebody and he goes, nah, we're going to put another one on. And he puts another wig on them. And next thing you know, the girl's wearing 3 wigs. I mean, full-blown wigs, not just pieces, full-blown wigs on this girl. And, of course, the hair is, like, giant. And then when you see a picture of it, it gets diminished. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah. Perfect.
It's crazy because it's a whole different world. Back to that.
Yeah.
Finding somebody with passion, making sure the photographer, let me tell you a story. So I got a guy that was really good in LA. And Richard was up and coming at that time and is very well known now. But Richard Reinsdorf was a photographer in Los Angeles. He was just a kid I met, and I asked him to do this test with me in my salon. And he was already doing celebrities, and I was already grooming for him on his shoots in Los Angeles. So that's our relationship. And he loved it. So I thought he'd be perfect, right? Doesn't do that kind of hair. He doesn't like to shoot that kind of hair. And after the shoot, he said, please don't put my name on it.
Damn.
Because that's not what he wanted his brand to look like.
Yeah.
And then I realized you're an editorial, you're a celebrity style, you do this kind of work. I get it. I don't like doing it. So you need to pick somebody that really loves what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not that they're just the photographer, because maybe they don't shoot that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going for a punk rock look, get a punk rock photographer.
Yep. So now in my later days and stages of my life, I pick a photographer that's a hairdresser. Richard Monchers, he's another one that's always around hairdressers, and he's got that eye. It's from Amsterdam. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's different photographers. They have different eyes. And pick the photography you like. You like the way they mood set, the way you do it. Mm-hmm. Pick that guy.
Yeah. My last question that I like to ask. All right, George. So everything that you have learned in your career up until this very moment in time, what advice would you give yourself back when you were in cosmetology school?
Don't procrastinate. Don't procrastinate. Don't procrastinate. When you don't want to do it is the time to do it. Yeah. In my heart of hearts, I don't want to do it. I just got off the phone with somebody that is really scared right now and doesn't know why. And I'm like, have you put off your project? And she's like, yes, I procrastinated. And I go, that's why. Mm-hmm. So do something little on your project, get something done on it. Put it away. Don't work 100% on it. And then it'll start feeding you and telling you, I need more. And then you'll go right into it. Yeah. And that's just the way it's going to have to be. That is a creative process.
Mm-hmm.
There's no shortcuts. No life hacks.
I did one time. Mm-hmm. I thought to myself, I love the idea. We're going to shoot it, but why do I need to do the back of the head or the sides? Mm-hmm. So I bought all toppers in the front to here. And I cut everything. We did everything, colored it, and Charlie cut it. And then all we did was shoot them in the very front. But that was a whole other thing I needed to learn how to do. Is if you don't do it right, and there's air through that back area, it's going to look like a piece of on the hair,
Yeah. I feel like I have a great metaphor for our careers in the industry. I feel like it's like your career, especially in the beginning, is like making hair paper. for a shoot. Hair paper takes a long time to make. You can't just rush it and do it. You have to do layer by layer and add to it until you get that final
and
result.
colors and tones.
For those of us that don't know what hair paper is, explain it to me.
Hair paper is one of my favorite things that I was ever taught to make. And it basically, you take hair of whatever kind, the cheaper the better. Cut it up. You lay it out on nonstick something.
Wax paper.
Wax paper is perfect. And you spray my favorite is got to be glued hairspray, but you sprinkle some hair, you spray some glue. You have to let it dry in between. Can't just put more on top and spray it, put more and spray it and put more. You can't. You have to give it time. And that's just like your career. You have to spray a little bit, come back later, keep nurturing it until your hair paper is finally
and
together.
I even learned from Jill Lights, who was making some paper for a shoot that we were doing. And I was like, what are you going to do? She goes, gotta let it dry.
And then she
took her cylinder, her spray, because it's cold. And then she ran it over it. And I go, what is that doing? She's like, cooling it off. I'm just setting it in. And she goes, that's my little trick. Yeah. But you learn all these little things from other, and when you see it, I'm like, oh, I like the way it looks because of that thing. So maybe you'll try that later. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's important. But my advice would be when you have that inkling and you don't want to do it, that's the time to do it.
Absolutely. I love that.
And that's the time when you say, okay. And fear is, and I walked her down off that ledge, but I did say this. I'm glad that you're afraid. I'm really happy that you're afraid because it tells me everything about who she is and her authenticity and her genuineness of who she is that she really does care.
It means something.
Yeah.
The people that she's going to present to and teach.
Yeah.
And you can't buy that. That's important to have good educators that have that instilled in them.
Every class I teach, I'm always nervous before I go on. Even though I know the material front, backwards, side to side, I'm still nervous because I want to do a good job. I always want to cry.
Why do I do this?
Yeah.
And then I was talking to a bunch of kids the other day and I said, okay, you picked the biggest career that you thought, I'm going to get into hairdressing because I'm going to be free and creative and do what I want, work when I want. You just signed up for a schedule when you got into this industry. Sorry.
Yep. You make your schedule, but it's still a schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're abiding to it. Yeah.
Well, George, I think this has been fantastic. And I think it provides a lot of really good information for our students out there that want to broaden their horizon. And I think competition is an excellent way of doing that. So we'll leave in the description where they can find some more information about competitions. We'll leave Mr. George's Instagram on there as well. Yep. So find us on,
We're just a DM away from anybody. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And don't be afraid to do that either.
And don't be afraid. The other piece of advice is don't be afraid to ask.
So leave us a review if you'd like. Find us on Apple iTunes. I forget Spotify. And what's the other one? Google Music?
Amazon Music.
Amazon Music. Damn it. I get it wrong every time. Forget Google. Amazon Music. So thanks a lot. We'll see you next time. I'm Russell Mays, and we are with Annie MacArthur and our famous,
already.
yes, our heavy hitter, George. Thank you very much.